Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, I want to ask, before I get into the news itself, I want to ask the Prime Minister, Kamla Persad-Bissessor, a question. Why do you really think that the artists in Trinidad and Tobago, the entertainers in Trinidad and Tobago, are speaking out now more than they have ever spoken out before? Maybe, just maybe, a lot of them do support the PNM, but that's not the actual reason. Let's look at it. And I want you to ask yourself this question as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Did these artists speak out and make music videos and stand in solidarity with the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago when you increased the fines that affecting the common man? Did they? The answer is no. Did they speak out when you introduced the landlord tax? No. No, the answer is no. Did they speak out when you doubled the duty fees and other types of fees for different types of services here in Trinidad and Tobago? Did they speak out? No. Because you know why? They probably told themselves that, well, we wouldn't admit it, but Kamla, the UNC really did inherit a broken economy. And maybe this is the only solution that they have in order to be able to generate revenue. So they probably say, you know what? We could bypass that. I opposed it, but I also said, in my opinion, that the government was still doing better than the PNM. And in a lot of ways, they will continue to. In a lot of ways, they will continue to govern the nation better than the PNM, people. But the reality is, I want the Prime Minister to ask herself, so then why? Why? It is for one reason. They are seeing you as a Prime Minister, as a leader, demonizing a large portion of the population simply because we do not believe the account. We do not believe what the TTPS is saying. The allegations being made against, the charges being laid against Kaya Seeley. We do not believe it because we have eyes to see what actually took place in the video. We have eyes to see that the police officers never ran for cover. We have eyes to see that the first bullet that hit that vehicle came from the police officers. It entered the side back window and exited the windscreen. We have eyes to see that. It seems as though you don't have eyes to see. It seems as though Padarat doesn't have eyes to see. So he just trusts and believes in your rough men. It seems that way. And to top it off now, you're not just demonizing a large portion of the population, including myself, and calling us agitators. And who knows if you're trying to also insinuate that we are trying to instigate violence in Trinidad and Tobago when we are all calling for peaceful protests. But to make matters worse, you've gone to a whole new level. Rowley used to send his police to shut down protests. Right? When the pushback movement, when other protesters, right, or bodies went out there to be able to protest against the lockdowns and the mandates, the mask mandates and the injection mandates and so forth, Rowley sent his pit bulls, his officers, to go and shut down the protests. I attended 2 of the pushback movement protests, and they were always shut down. So when Andy Williams talking this nonsense about, oh, they do it better. Yeah, they didn't do nothing better. Well, they didn't do nothing better. You understand? Because the protests and them still ended up being shut down. But at the end of the day, so Rowley used to send his police officers to shut down protests. But you know what's the difference now? The difference is now you are actually designating certain areas as no protest zones. People cannot protest there, no matter what. They cannot. So even if they ask for permission to protest, to march, they'll be denied because it's now a zone where people cannot protest. You have decided that all significant areas, all strategic areas that can be effective in a protest to send a message to the state officials and to the government itself, you have decided that those places are restricted zones. You have taken autocracy. You have taken this dictatorship to a whole new level to Rowley. And this is why the artists are now speaking up, because they are realizing that you are becoming even more extreme than Rowley. And this is why they are speaking out. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessor, Now to start off with the news here in Trinidad and Tobago. A fresh face in the landscape of TNT's protests, Alyssa Phillip, 25 years of age, has quickly become the vibrant new symbol of advocacy and justice here in Trinidad and Tobago, a whole new generation. A generation that basically used to keep out of politics a lot. They don't even study the news, far less for politics. But you know when they go and interfere with our JEPNES, that is basically what Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessor, Roger Alexander, and Alistair Guevara have done. They're playing with our JEPNES, they're interfering with our JEPNES. A JEPNES that usually stay out of people's business, and they just study their own generation things and all their little, entertainment stuff, and that is it. Do they have their problems? Yes, they're involved in, they're lost in gang culture and stuff like that. A lot of them are lost in gang culture, but that's all different discussion. The whole point is they don't usually get involved in politics. Kamala Persad-Bissessor and her minions are awakening a giant in the population. Something that my generation, we were awakened and yet we still remain very passive. The young people are different, not to mention they have the energy. And they have the capabilities. They are able to interact with each other online and in WhatsApp groups in a way that we still don't have that ability, that kind of tech savvy kind of way about us. I know technology to a bit, yes. But I'm saying, watch it is. What happens with the schools and them on an evening? How you feel all the schools and them know to gather together to do, it's not right things. It's not right things. But look at it. How you think they all know to gather on a Friday evening, whether it's in San Grande, Port of Spain, or Rima, wherever? It's because they have their WhatsApp groups, and even though they are rivals, they all communicate with each other in these WhatsApp groups. That is the generation you are playing with fire with, Kamala Persad-Bissessor. That is the generation. And the thing about it is well-educated individuals that you're going after. Alyssa Phillip is a well-educated young woman. And she could be able to organize peaceful protests, not violence. She never incited any violence. She could organize very huge peaceful protests in a way that my generation, like Andy Williams and stuff like that, cannot do. That is what you failing to realize. She could start a peaceful revolution in a way that my generation could have never done. And the thing about it is, you as a prime minister, when you were opposition leader, you called for a revolution. You remember that? You hypocrite? Okay then. Getting back to the news report. Having spent a night behind bars recently for her role in leading a protest outside the Director of Public Prosecution's Office, Port of Spain, to highlight the fatal shooting of Joshua Samaru and the serious wounding of his girlfriend Kaya Seeley on January 20th, 2026, Phillip now stands as a vibrant young leader who wasn't afraid to stand up and speak out. She wasn't arrested for robbing anyone, She wasn't arrested for using obscene language, Neither Jason De Silva. Neither of these individuals committed any crime. Not what? Her mother did not do anything except hug her daughter. And yet she was also at that point in time taken into custody with the daughter. Right? But at the end of the day, none of them committed any types of crimes. And yet they were charged and could face time in prison. And that is under Kamala Persad-Bissessor. That is why the artists and them are speaking out, Madam Prime Minister. Yesterday, the Caribbean Association for Feminist Research and Action, CAFRA, issued a press release expressing its solidarity with Phillip and other protesters for their courage, leadership, and public advocacy. Once again, CAFRA never spoke out when they raised the fees and fines and taxes. But they are seeing you infringing upon the rights of citizens to peacefully protest, Madam Prime Minister. Empress Thanos, Kamala, you have become a very evil dictator in this country. I never thought that would have happened. CAFRA called on state authorities to uphold citizens' constitutional rights, exercise restraint in responding to peaceful demonstrations, and ensure allegations involving excessive force or extrajudicial killing are subject to transparent and independent investigation, which of course is not really taking place except for the PCA, Police Complaints Authority, which basically is a waste of time because you look how long they're taking just to complete this investigation. My response, 1 year ago, a little more than a year ago, because now it's a year now that UNC in office. So a little more than a year ago, but approximately 1 year ago, UNC hypocrites would have been standing in solidarity with this courageous and intelligent young woman. But politics matters more to these radicals than human rights and justice. None of them condemned citizens who protested over the killings of the men in Mova or the youths in Port of Spain. And David Welch tell us if he ever condemned any of those protests back then? Because it was under state of emergency a lot of the times. How come he didn't condemn it back then? How come he stood in solidarity with the people back then? How come the UNC supporters stood in solidarity with them back then? Because you know why? They wanted Rowley out of office. That's why. It seems as though they never really cared about people's civil rights, especially the other half of the population's rights. Back then, they knew that citizens had the right to demand justice when the system appeared to be failing under the PNM. It wasn't just appearing, it was failing. I voted for UNC my entire adult life, but never again. Never again. The UNC has now become even more evil than the mighty Morphin Ghanaian coal pot bicycle, no ham, no macaroni pie PNM. I will never vote for PNM either, but I'm definitely not voting for UNC either. Never. Bear in mind, listen to this, people. I really want you all to listen to this on this channel. Bear in mind that PNM supporters who are controlled by tribalism, I will never go back on that. I don't try to play the political games with the people. That's one thing with me. I don't really care about politics. I'm involved in politics. I speak about politics all the time, but I don't care about politics. I care about the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, whether they are PNM, whether they are UNC or independent or third party. I care about all my citizens, all my fellow citizens. So bear in mind that PNM supporters who are controlled by tribalism still protested against extrajudicial killings when their own party was in office. So it begs the question, whose members are really more fanatic? Because look at it. Now that we're in charge, now that UNC is in charge, the UNC population, the UNC online population especially, because I know a lot of UNC people outside here that don't like what's going on at all. But the UNC online activists, and even the population to an extent, are not saying anything now that the UNC is in government, right? Same types of extrajudicial killings, same types of false allegations against citizens, and yet the UNC supporters have now shifted their narrative to it's a lawless nation, and people have to abide by the law and obey the rules, and we are under a state of emergency. You all never used to talk like that when PNM was in office. And now, instead of standing up in solidarity with Kaya Seeley and her family and the Joshua Samaru family, you are demonizing them instead. How come? How come? So who is more fanatic? Because the PNM supporters, when it was in the Mova killing, they went out and they protested while their government was in office. When the young men that were shot, that left Diego Martin and was followed by the police from Diego Martin into Port of Spain and were murdered in cold blood, their hands were up in the air and they were murdered, PNM supporters went out and protested even though their government was in office. You are not doing it, so therefore who are more of fanatics outside here? It is quite clear to me, even though I never believed it in the past, it's quite clear to me now that the UNC supporters are more tribal and more fanatic than even the PNM supporters. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Queen Kamala, Thanos Kamala, has condemned what she described as sick and evil calls for violent criminal gangs to unite against law enforcement officers. No one ever did that. No one called for criminal gangs to unite against law enforcement officers. People were saying everybody's going to unite against a corrupt system, peacefully unite and stand in solidarity with the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who are being framed for something that they did not commit. Kaya Seeley did not commit that crime. We all see that. Did she commit some kind of crime before? We don't know. We still don't know the actual reason why they were running away from the police, but it doesn't matter. Because the fact of the matter remains that Joshua Samaru surrendered. So it doesn't matter what took place before. Once someone has surrendered, you're supposed to arrest them without incident. That is what was supposed to take place. Instead, he was murdered, brutally murdered by police officers who are supposed to protect and serve. In a statement issued yesterday, Persad-Bissessar accused upper sections of the opposition trade unions, entertainers, and activists. Listen to the amount of people she demonizing them, associating themselves with dangerous rhetoric. So that therefore she is also accusing me. Therefore she is also accusing me of trying to that I am associating myself with dangerous people. And I always condemn gang culture. I always condemn gang affiliation and stuff like that. And yet I will be accused of supporting them now. My Lord. The Prime Minister said only sick and evil people would support calls for gangs to target police officers and law-abiding citizens. Once again, she's twisting people's words because no one ever said that. No one ever said that, including the two individuals who were featured in the video. Neither of them, they said clearly peaceful. The two individuals, I'm not going to mention them. I don't even know their names, but anyhow. But I'm not going to even mention their groups. I don't ever mention any of those groups because I don't support any of those groups. I want everybody to live in Trinidad and Tobago peacefully with each other and stop the turf wars and stuff like that. So I don't ever mention any of the groups. But I'm just saying, those two individuals never called for any violence. They said peaceful. Anyhow, my response, this woman is no longer fit to be Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. People, this woman needs to go for a cognitive test evaluation. I'm telling you. Something is not right. The UNC majority needs to remove Kamala from office via a vote of no confidence. So you see, Madam Prime Minister, before one of your police officers and then watch my video and say that I inciting anything, listen carefully to what I am saying. The UNC majority needs to remove Kamala from office via a vote of no confidence to save both the party and country from becoming a failed state. You think about it is, if they do it, I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, I might still vote for them in 2030 if they do it now. They can't do it later. Make sure and do it now. And let's say like Munilal ends up being the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and he continues to govern properly. Then maybe, just maybe, I will continue to have confidence in them. You see, at this point in time, I have lost all confidence in the UNC. The Prime Minister has become even more deceptive and vindictive than Rowley, which is something I never thought was possible until now. I never thought we would have ever had an evil leader, an evil Prime Minister like Rowley ever again in the history of this country. Kamala proved me wrong. People are uniting and crying out for justice because we all have seen the video, Kamala. We all see that she's being framed for a crime she did not commit. She did not shoot at those police in that video. Watch the original video, Kamala. Put on your glasses, the man. Put on your glasses and let Padarat take some testosterone shots and try to open up his masculine eyes and watch the video and see what the rest of us are seeing. We are seeing police officers that were walking boldly towards a car, never once tried to evade any sorts of bullets and gunfire, never ran for cover, and also the gunshot that you all zoomed into, the TTPS zoomed into, that gunshot did not come from inside the car. That gunshot entered from the outside and exited through the front windscreen. You are trying to take the entire population for fools, Madam Prime Minister. Two guys who declared unity, listen to what I'm saying here, and I already said it, but I'm saying it here again. The two guys who declared unity also never said that violence will be used in order to achieve any agenda. A matter of fact, they made it clear that it was going to be peaceful. This woman, vindictive woman, twisting the words of these guys. That doesn't mean I support these guys in general, people. I don't even know them, and I don't want to know them. My point is, these two individuals never called for violence. Never did. They simply stated that they both stand in solidarity with the rest of the public who are calling for true justice to be served. That is all they did. And you're coming out here twisting their words. How vindictive can you be to twist the words of people when it has video footage to show what they actually said? How vindictive can you be? So once again, we saw the video of the police killing Joshua Sabro, and we're supposed to believe you and your TTPS. And now you're coming, we saw the video of these two guys speaking, and we're supposed to believe you over them? How vindictive can you be as a Prime Minister? Those cops shot at two persons who had already surrendered. Kaya Sealy and Joshua Samaru had surrendered. Now, no one shot at those cops after the vehicle crashed. Now, I don't know if they shot at them before. I don't believe so. Because listen, common sense will tell you that if they were shot at before, the police would have never been walking towards that car boldly. They would have never done that. They would have stayed behind their vehicles, near to their vehicles, to use it as a shield, and be calling out to both Kaya Seeley and Joshua Samaru to exit the vehicles with their hands in the air. That is what they would have done. Because they would not want to be going in the line of fire. So everybody knows that Kaya Seeley never shot at them at any point in time, not to mention if she did shoot at them. And they really did find a gun in that car, and it wasn't planted afterwards. Then Kaya Seeley would have been fingerprinted and tested for gunshot residue. And according to very significant individuals online, those two things was never done. They were never done. She was never tested for gunshot residue or fingerprinted, and she was also told that she was not part of a criminal investigation, so she's free to go abroad to seek medical attention. If it is they saw her shooting, like Rambo or some kind of big-time hero, Walker, Texas Ranger, or whoever, if they really saw her before, while they were pursuing the car, shooting at the officers, you think they would have really let her go? You think they would not fingerprint her? You're taking the population for fools, TTPS, and now the government. So I said it's unlikely they ever shot at cops because those officers never attempted to shield themselves behind vehicles and also failed to instruct both Kaya and Joshua to exit their car. Kamla's rough men boldly walked up to the car and emptied clips on a man who had his hands in the air. You are a demonic woman, a devious demonic woman, Kamla. Heartless, and evil.
Trinidad and Tobago weather report for Monday, June 1, 2026. The weather for Monday, June 1, 2026 in Trinidad and Tobago will be fair to partly cloudy, hazy and breezy with a maximum temperature of 31 degrees Celsius and a minimum temperature of 26 degrees Celsius. According to the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, significant concentrations of Saharan dust will be present in the atmosphere, so individuals sensitive to changes in air quality should take precautions. Brief, isolated morning or midday showers may temporarily interrupt the hazy conditions, particularly around midday when the chance of precipitation peaks near 55%. Winds will blow from the east to east-southeast at speeds of 10 to 40 km per hour with occasional gusty conditions. Seas are expected to remain moderate with wave heights ranging from 1.5 to 2.0 meters in open waters and near 1.0 meter in sheltered areas. Spring tides will be actively in effect and sheltered waters may occasionally become choppy.
Regional news now. The Guyana Civil Aviation Authority has launched an investigation into an aircraft accident involving a Cessna 182P Skylane at the Arichang airstrip in Koyuni, Mazaruni region, Region 7. According to media reports, the aircraft is reportedly owned and was being operated at the time by pilot Orlando Charles. Preliminary reports indicate that there were no fatalities resulting from the incident, thank God. The GCAA said it is working closely with the relevant stakeholders to determine the circumstances and cause of the accident. International news now. A fight over a White House ballroom is turning into a national security showdown. President Trump is accusing a federal judge of jeopardizing Washington's safety by slowing a project that includes a rooftop drone base and other security enhancements. Once again, I sure there's probably an Obama-appointed federal judge or maybe an Otto Penn Biden judge. They're right through this whole term in office. These federal judges have been trying to undermine the Trump administration. Oh, go in a ballroom. What problem you all have with a ballroom? Why you need Congress approval for a ballroom? My goodness, boy. Judge Richard Leon should stop playing games with America's security, Trump wrote, arguing that today's threats demand new defensive measures beyond traditional protections. The lawsuit is focused on whether the administration can proceed with the project and the security upgrades without congressional authorization. And that's why I asked the question, why? My goodness, I find that's ridiculous. Governor DeSantis, Florida's governor, a man who could definitely be, at some point in time, the future president of the United States of America, leads the charge to eliminate property taxes in Florida. So while a lot of Caribbean islands still believe that property taxes are useful in order to be able to generate revenue, and they talk about America, the Republicans don't like these type of taxes and stuff like that. They know that you need income tax and whatever. But then these other extra taxes, and so people have to be paying a rent for their own property. So I'll read over that again for you all. Governor DeSantis leads the charge to eliminate property taxes in Florida under a new plan aimed at giving homeowners relief. This is really a historic opportunity to have more money in people's pockets and to actually have their home to be their private property that the government just can't use as a piggy bank. You see what I'm saying? It's logical. You own a property and yet you still have to continue paying a tax fit, a rent fit in other words. It's ridiculous. Property tax that's one good thing, of course, that the government here in Trinidad and Tobago eliminated. And hopefully the rest of the Caribbean will do the same thing at some point in time in the future.
Homeowners need relief. And so it's my view that if you are a Florida resident and you have a homestead, we want that to be tax-free. And so that's our vision. That represents about 30% of the overall property tax revenue because they still tax investment property, commercial property. And so this ballot measure will do an opening salvo of raising it, the exemption to $250, adjusted for inflation so they can't play games. That will be 60% of Florida homesteaders tax-free. Then as they raise it, the legislature will be able to raise that and have a process to do that. Once you get to 500,000 limit, that's 92% of homeowners, and then on it goes from there. But if we don't give homeowners relief, Maria, by 2032, they're going to be taking in $83 billion. So that would mean $32 billion in 2019. 13 years later, it goes to $83 billion. That is not sustainable. And so this is really a historic opportunity to have more money in people's pockets and to actually have their home be their private property that the government just can't use as a piggy bank.
On Friday, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, struck and dismantled a Hezbollah artillery command center in the area of El Shamali in southern Lebanon. Following the strike, secondary explosions were identified, indicating the presence of weapons inside the structure. Weapons that would have been used by these Hezbollah terrorists to continue to terrorize the lives of Israelis in the northern area of Israel. And then, of course, the BBC Jihadist News and the Kakash media here in Trinidad and Tobago will always continue to accuse Israel of trying to just dominate and bully everyone. And all Israel is trying to do is to protect their own citizens from attacks from these terrorists who continue to boldly and publicly declare that they want to destroy Israel.
Bible quote of the day. Philippians 4:11-14 NIV. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Yet it was good of you to share in my troubles.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.